えそうだな、ルフィ。おい小僧、お前が一体何になるのか。
海賊王になるのは俺だ。
The episode starts with Shanks losing his arm to the Sea King, and then provoking Luffy to become a pirate and meet him again someday. Bartolomeo tells the story of how the crew joined the Straw Hat Pirates. Meanwhile, at Marine headquarters, Admiral Kizaru hears a briefing about the new shichibukai Edward Weevil, who claims to be the son of Whitebeard. As per Kizaru, he is almost as strong as Whitebeard was in his prime. After that, 1 week has passed and the Barto Club's ship appears to be in thick fog, and soon they spot a huge shadow moving. The Vivi card seems to point toward that mountain, so they advance toward it. To everyone's surprise, it is no mountain but a sky-scraping massive elephant that is more commonly known as Zoo. It's populated by the Mink Tribe that hates humans. The Straw Hat Pirates and the Barto Club stare in awe at the giant elephant that Zoo is located on as they draw closer to it. Suddenly, Luffy sees the Thousand Sunny docked at one of the elephant's back legs, and the Barto Club is excited to see it. Frankie sees that the ship has no major damage, so their crewmates must have escaped from the Big Mom pirates. Luffy calls out to Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Momonosuke, but gets no answer, and he leaps over onto the empty Sunny. Suddenly, the elephant begins moving and drags the Sunny along with it, forcing the going Luffy-senpai to keep up with it as Bartolomeo makes a barrier staircase to connect the two ships. As the elephant prepares to keep moving, the Straw Hats, Law, and the Samurai cross over to the Sunny, and Luffy prepares to get up the elephant quickly and reunite with the rest of his crew. In the Revolutionary Army headquarters on Baltigo, Monkey D. Dragon receives reports of revolutionary victories on various islands across the world. He then speaks with Koala, who tells him that the weapons they took from Dressrosa were made out of a rare metal. Dragon reveals the metal to be liquor iron ore, and commends the work of Koala and her forces on Dressrosa. He asks about Robin, hearing that she was captured on Sabaody Archipelago, but was relieved to know that was false. As Sabo trains outside, Koala asks Dragon if he wants to know about Luffy, but Dragon changes the subject. He tells Koala to summon all the top members of the Revolutionary Army, and she is surprised that all these very different people are being brought together. Meanwhile, 2 Blackbeard pirates' ships sail through the New World. Inside one of them, Lafitte and Shiryu get a call from Jesus Burgess. Burgess reveals that he's stowed away on a ship and is now on Baltigo, hiding behind a rock formation near the Revolutionaries' base. Burgess tells Lafitte and Shiryu to bring the crew to Baltigo so they could pillage it and obtain many weapons, although he also needs Q since he is on the verge of death. Meanwhile, Edward Weevil of the 7 Warlords of the Sea stands over the decimated O pirates, saying that even though Whitebeard's subordinates considered themselves to be his children, he alone was Whitebeard's true biological son. His mother, Buchan, Whitebeard's self-proclaimed lover, affirms this, holding up a picture of Whitebeard and saying that the two had to be related given their similar appearances. Buchan sets her eyes on taking down Whitebeard's 16 division commanders, saying that Whitebeard must have left a fortune to them after his death, but Weevil was the only true heir to it. Weevil states his desire to take down Blackbeard to get revenge for Whitebeard's death, but Buchan berates him, saying that money is more important than revenge. Buchan then receives a newspaper, where she reads about Dankuketo Doflamingo being defeated by Luffy. She recognizes Luffy as the one the Whitebeard pirates protected during the Summit War of Marineford, and decides to have Weevil go after him in order to use him to find the missing Marco. On Karai Bari Island, the pirate dispatch organization Buggy's Delivery is experiencing a great surge in business. The members of the organization revel in their success, and Buggy tells them to live large as they perform their duties, as his Warlord of the Sea status protects them from the law. Moji then tells Buggy that Hadrudin has quit working for them, although Alvida says they still have 4 other giants in their employ. Moji then reveals that the other 4 giants quit too, and Buggy demands to know why, persisting despite Moji's hesitancy to anger his captain with the news. Back at Zoo, the Bardo Club expresses their happiness at being with the Straw Hats, despite the Straw Hats ignoring them as Kanjuro works on a large drawing. Kanjuro has the drawing come to life, and it emerges as a big, long, and pink dragon. The Straw Hats are shocked at how pathetic it looks, although Robin thinks it is cute. Usopp thinks it will fly them up to the top, but Kanjuro reveals that it will climb up the elephant's leg instead. The Straw Hats, Law, and the Samurai then climb aboard the dragon as the Bardo Club tearfully departs, and they prepare to make the daunting journey up and reunite with their crewmates. However, the dragon quickly grows tired and struggles to keep a hold of the elephant's leg, and it slides back down to the Thousand Sunny. The Straw Hats encourage it, with Usopp dubbing it Ryunosuke, and it continues climbing despite its progress being lost. As Ryunosuke continues climbing, Luffy wonders how Sanji and their other crewmates got up to Zoo, and then asks Kin Iman and Kanjuro why they want to go to Zoo in the first place. The samurai reveal that Zoo was their original destination after leaving Wano country, and they wanted to reunite with Momonosuke, as well as see if their comrade Raizo the ninja, who was separated from them at sea, had made it here. The male pirates are all awestruck to hear about a ninja, and wonder what kind of abilities he has. Kanjuro jokes around with Kin Iman in response, and the riders suddenly see a small monkey named Bariei falling down towards them. The Straw Hats and Law dodge the falling monkey, but Kin Iman and Kanjuro are distracted from playing around and are hit, causing them to fall off Ryunosuke. The pirates call out to the samurai, who reveal that they are all right and tell them to go on ahead. The monkey then shouts at the samurai for trying to enter Zoo without permission, and the Straw Hats try telling Ryunosuke to go back and get the samurai. However, after seeing how much Ryunosuke is suffering, they decide to continue on to the top. As the sun goes down, Luffy goes to sleep as Ryunosuke nears the top. Sleeping causes Luffy to lose his grip on Ryunosuke, and Usopp tries to catch him, but only grabs his backpack as Luffy falls down below. As he falls, Luffy wakes up and grabs hold of Ryunosuke's horns, but this causes Ryunosuke's front legs to lose their grip, causing it to bend over backwards. The Straw Hats encourage it to grab hold of the leg again, and after a great effort, Ryunosuke manages to do so and continues climbing. As the pirates near the top, Ryunosuke gives a last push upward, and they reach Zoo successfully. However, Ryunosuke turns back into a drawing, and the pirates mourn for it except for Zoro and Law, who considered it only a cheap drawing and wanted to focus on the island they are on. The pirates walk toward a gateway to a place called the Mokomo Dukedom, and Luffy pulls himself to the top of it, allowing him to survey the entire dukedom. Usopp joins Luffy as the others walk through the gateway, whose gates were destroyed. Luffy leaps off the gate and goes exploring by himself, while the other pirates survey the seemingly abandoned dukedom, noting that the ground is hard to walk on and that there is heavy damage all around them, including faint traces of gunpowder and gas. Meanwhile, a rabbit mink named Carrot spies on them from behind a bush, and is shocked that they managed to get past Buriet. Elsewhere, Luffy runs through an abandoned city, wondering where everyone is and calling out for Sanji's group. Carrot ambushes the other pirates, managing to dodge Zoro's slash and clash with his sword, but suddenly a giant crocodile-like creature bursts onto the scene. Riding it is a canine mink, who tells Carrot to stop her attack as they need to deal with an intruder in the whale forest. Usopp then notices in shock that the canine mink is wearing Nami's top. Luffy races through the abandoned Kurao city, looking for Sanji, Nami, Chopper, Brook, Momonosuke, and Caesar Clown. He then enters the whale forest, and is awestruck at the giant tree shaped like a whale in the center. Luffy traverses through the trees, but he is unknowingly being watched by a mink named Pedro. Meanwhile, a canine mink named Wanda stops her fellow mink Carrot from attacking the Straw Hats, saying that they need to deal with an intruder in the whale forest. Usopp notices that Wanda is wearing Nami's clothes and becomes paranoid. Robin suggests that the minks could be cannibals, which only frightens Usopp more. Meanwhile, Luffy surveys the whale forest, but is suddenly confronted by two minks. Carrot then jumps a very high distance in order to survey the whale forest, shocking the Straw Hats with her abilities, and sees a disturbance occurring there. She comes back down and climbs on Wanda's steed Wenny, and Wanda gives the Straw Hats directions to get to the right flank forest, where they will find the corpse of their crewmate, which appalls them. Wanda and Carrot ride toward the whale forest, with Wanda revealing that the pirates they just met are the Straw Hat pirates, and that Luffy is probably the intruder in the whale forest. However, the Guardians may not show him mercy despite who he is. Meanwhile, Usopp freaks out about the minks and what happened to their crewmates, and Robin only continues assuming the worst about the minks. However, Zoro and Frankie are confident that their crewmates are safe, and Robin asks Law if his crewmates are here as well. Law affirms this, though he did not plan a way to get back to them because he thought he would never seen again, but he realizes he has Beepo's Viver card in his possession. Law reveals to the Straw Hats that Beepo is a mink, but left Zoo at a young age, and the pirates follow the direction the Viver card is pointing toward. In the whale forest, Luffy clashes with a bull mink named Roddy the Two Buttheads while Roddy discharges electrical energy. Luffy and Roddy fight evenly, with both parties managing to repel the other. The other Guardian, a gorilla mink named Blackback, wonders how Roddy's electrode does not work on Luffy, who reveals to them that he is made of rubber. Luffy and Roddy continue fighting, when suddenly Beepo, Jean Bart, Shachi, and Penguin arrive at the scene. They recognize Luffy and tell Roddy to stop attacking, as Luffy is a friend, but Roddy refuses. Jean Bart tries to break the two up by force, but an angry Blackback flips him over. An enraged Roddy mounts another charge, but Wanda and Carrot then arrive, throwing a fluttering object to distract Roddy and Bananas to pacify Blackback. Luffy asks Wanda why they were attacking him, and Wanda reveals that the Guardians are tasked with keeping intruders out of the whale forest. Wanda then talks to Pedro, who is standing on a treetop, apologizing for Luffy's intrusion and telling him to call back the Guardians. Pedro does so, and the large number of Guardians that had secretly surrounded Luffy all disperse. Luffy is bewildered due to not knowing they were there, and Wanda tells him to be glad this was not a moonlit night. Luffy then meets the Heart Pirates, who are initially confused by him referring to Law as Toro, but are happy to find out their captain is here. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats and Law travel through Kuro City, noticing the massive damage and the lack of anyone here. Robin, Zoro, and Law inspect various buildings as Usopp continues panicking, and the Straw Hats see large claw marks on the buildings, big footprints on the ground, and torture devices with blood on them. Robin then reveals that whatever happened to cause this damage was only a week or two ago, meaning Sanji and the others were likely involved in it. Meanwhile, Wanda reveals to Luffy that the country was destroyed by Jack as Wanda and Carrot emotionally remember the bloodshed that occurred not too long ago. Suddenly, the ground begins shaking, and the Minks prepare for the upcoming eruption rain. Wanda tells Luffy to get onto Wenny and she will take him to his friends, and Luffy is excited to see Sanji and the others. However, Wanda fails to affirm his statement, and Luffy wonders what is wrong. As Zoo begins shaking due to the upcoming eruption rain, the Heart Pirates climb on trees while Luffy joins Wanda and Carrot atop Wenny's back. At Kuro City, the concerned Straw Hats wonder why Zoo is shaking. Wenny starts to run as the elephant carrying Zoo on its back, Zunesha, lifts up its trunk and spews out a large volume of water onto Zoo. The Straw Hats run away, but realize that it is too late to avoid it. Meanwhile, Wenny, Wanda, and Carrot are submerged in the raging flood, and eventually emerge from it. They then realize that Luffy has fallen off. They see Luffy flailing in the torrent, and Carrot leaps through tree branches to rescue him. Carrot barely misses Luffy's hand as he sinks underwater and is approached by a shark. Right as Luffy is by the shark's mouth, however, Carrot grabs him and brings him back onto Wenny. Meanwhile, Kin Imon, Kanjuro, and Buriate climb back up to Zoo on a cat Kanjuro drew, which they call Nikozimon. Suddenly, the water from the eruption rain comes flowing down, which Buriate explains the source of. Kanjuro reveals that the water will cause Nikozimon to melt as they are hit by the cascade. Meanwhile, Wenny swims through the flood, and Wanda explains to Luffy that Zunesha washed itself twice a day by spraying water on its back. The Minks took advantage of this by building aqueduct systems to get drinking water, as well as catching fish to eat. Beepo then arrives by swinging through the trees and tells Luffy to tell Law where he and the Heart Pirates are since he cannot leave the forest. Carrot tells Luffy that although Beepo is a native of this island, he is still a pirate, and so remains under the care of Master Nekomamushi. At Kuro City, the Straw Hats have escaped the flood on the rooftop of a building, although a frightened Usopp has climbed all the way up a tall tower. Usopp expresses his fright at the eruption rain as the shark cruises by, causing him more panic, and as he looks out he spots Luffy riding with Wanda and Carrot. However, Carrot is biting Luffy, and Usopp thinks that they are eating him. Luffy tries to get Carrot off of him, and they pass by some crucifixes in Kuro City. Wanda and Carrot get emotional as they remember Jack torturing a dog mink in order to get information on someone's whereabouts, but the mink refused to tell him. Luffy asks about Jack again, and Wanda reveals that she read his obituary in the newspaper a few days ago. He had attacked 4 marine ships transporting Don Quixote Doflamingo and managed to sink 2 of them, but was ultimately brought down. However, his death could not be confirmed, and Wanda thinks he is still alive, saying that she will never forgive him. As the floodwaters finally drain away, Wanda decides to take a shortcut as Wenny picks up its speed. As Luffy expresses excitement at exploring Zoo, Law suddenly teleports himself and the Straw Hats right in front of Wenny. Usopp attempts to use Zoro's power to threaten the Minks into handing Luffy over, but a slightly annoyed Wanda states that they mean no harm and are already at their destination, the Right Belly Fortress. Wanda tells the 2 guards at the entrance that the Straw Hat Pirates have arrived, surprising them. Inside the Right Belly Fortress, Nami is sleeping on a large sheep mink named Yomo, and Chopper comes to her to reveal that their crewmates are here. Yomo accidentally causes Nami to fall off him as he gets up, but Nami is excited for a reunion. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats and Law enter the Right Belly Fortress and receive an unexpectedly warm welcome from the Minks. Zoro confides to Wanda that they had thought Minks were hostile to outsiders, but Wanda replies that they considered humans to be hairless versions of themselves and did not judge by appearance, but by character. Nami and Chopper then appear, but are stopped by some affectionate Minks. The Straw Hats have an emotional reunion as Chopper happily hugs Usopp, but when Luffy mentions Sanji in his greeting, Nami's expression changes as she embraces him. In tears, she begins to reveal something that happened to Sanji. Kin Imon, Kanjuro and Buriate sit on a deformed Nikozemon. After being deluged by Zoo's eruption rain, they then notice in shock that they have fallen back to the Thousand Sunny. They are intent on continuing, but realize that Nikozemon is severely deformed and dripping ink, which frightens them. They push Nikozemon upward, but the severely weakened cat drawing quickly slides back down after taking a few steps, nearly falling into the ocean. Realizing Nikozemon is unable to continue, and seeing that the sun has nearly set, the samurai decide to return to the Sunny and resume their climb the next morning. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats feast with the minks inside the Right Belly Fortress. The minks show affection to all the pirates by rubbing themselves against them, and Zoro is the only one annoyed by this. Carrot reveals to Usopp that the minks only eat hairless animals, and when Usopp asks why the minks have welcomed them like this, Carrot reveals that it is because they are their savior's friends. Right then, Brook runs into the fortress, wearing very tattered clothes. Brook greets his crewmates, apologizing to Luffy about Sanji. Usopp asks about Momonosuke, and Brook's expression changes as he reveals that Momonosuke does not seem to like the minks, and so is hiding in his room. However, Brook thinks this could be for the best, and gathers his crewmates around him. He tells them to avoid mentioning the words samurai and Wano country, because doing so could offend and anger many of the people here. However, as Brook reveals the reason behind it, a group of canine minks enter the fortress and drool as they stare in obsession at Brook, calling him barren corpse. The Straw Hats then realize that Wanda was referring to Brook when she told them about finding the corpse of their crewmate, and Wanda reveals that it was their nickname for him since canine minks like them love chewing on bones. As the canine minks bite and gnaw on Brook, Chopper asks Luffy where Law is, and Luffy reveals that he went to reunite with his crewmates in the Whale Forest. Nami then asks what they are going to do about Sanji, but Luffy and Zoro are not particularly concerned about him since he left a note and did not seem to be kidnapped. However, Nami and Chopper are still worried about him because his departure did not seem right. Frankie then interrupts, telling Nami and Chopper that he and the others have no idea what has really happened since the Sunny crew left Dressrosa 11 days ago. The others concur, and Nami agrees to tell them what happened, starting with them being chased by the Big Mom pirates. 11 days ago, the Curly Hat pirates were shocked to see the Big Mom pirates singing ship pursuing them, with Pecoms, Tamago, and Capone Bege commandeering it in an attempt to capture Caesar Clown. Sanji got permission from Luffy to fight back, and he began a counterattack despite Caesar's protests. The singing ship fired cannonballs at them, and Brook froze all of them with Soul Parade. Chopper activated Monster Point and used Caesar as a bag to hold all the cannonballs, hurling him toward the Big Mom pirates. Sanji then leaped into the air and kicked Caesar with Diable Jambi, sending the flaming cannonballs flying into the singing ship and causing a massive explosion. Caesar fell towards the water, but Sanji grabbed him and returned to the Sunny. As the Big Mom pirates dealt with the sudden chaos, Nami created a rainstorm to create fog, which allowed the Sunny to escape. In the present, the Straw Hats applaud the Curly Hats for their maneuvers, and Nami reveals that they reached Zoo the next day. Robin notes that the earliest signs of damage in Kurao City were from just over 2 weeks ago, and Wanda reveals that by 10 days ago, Zoo had mostly been destroyed. Wanda is fine with telling the curious Straw Hats what happened, and prepares to do so, but is suddenly interrupted when a sloth mink arrives at the fortress. The mink reveals that Duke Inuarashi has woken from his coma, which causes the minks to celebrate and Wanda to shed tears of joy. Chopper and the minks Miyagi and Tristan run to Inuarashi's location to tend to him, and the sloth mink tells Wanda that Inuarashi has requested an audience with the Straw Hats. Luffy asks who Inuarashi is, and Wanda reveals that he is the ruler of the Mokomo dukedom. He had fallen into a coma ever since the dukedom was destroyed along with Nekomamushi, his fellow ruler. The two ruled the dukedom together, with Inuarashi being the ruler of day and Nekomamushi being the ruler of night. Ah walks through the Whale Forest, and the members of his crew appear in front of him. They have a happy reunion, and go further into the forest to catch up. Meanwhile, Wanda takes the Straw Hats to see Duke Inuarashi through a passage in the right flank fortress. The Straw Hats gaze in awe at the plants on the ceiling that provide light, and then realize that Luffy is missing. They find Luffy sitting on a tree outside the passageway eating grapes, and continue to be impressed by the beautiful scenery in the right flank fortress. Wanda then reveals that the minks do not usually live in the fortress, but in Kurao City, which used to be intact and full of life. Minks of all shapes and sizes had friendly interactions with each other as they lived normal lives. However, the city was leveled just over 2 weeks ago, and Wanda prepares to tell the Straw Hats what happened. 17 days ago, the people of Kurao City heard a bell ringing, but soon realized that it was the raid bell, which they had rarely heard before. At the gate to the Mokomo dukedom, Buriate frantically rang the raid bell as an unknown force pounded on the gate, and the nearby guards braced themselves for an attack. The invaders finally broke through, causing Buriate to fly into the rampart wall, and he got back up and continued ringing the bell as the invaders, consisting of several armed people and a massive quadrupedal object, raced toward Kuro City. The invaders entered Kuro City, and the minks retreated as they gathered together in fear. The large object was revealed to be a mammoth, and one of the invaders, Sheepshed, revealed that they were the beast's pirates and the mammoth was Jack, one of the three disasters who were Kaido's right-hand men. The beast's pirates revealed that they were looking for a samurai from Wano country, Raizo, but the minks claimed that they neither knew Raizo nor his location. Sheepshed berated Jinrumi for calling Raizo a samurai when he was a ninja, but Jinrumi replied that samurai could refer to anyone in Wano country. Led by Munji, the minks continued professing that they knew nothing, and offered to let Jack speak with the Duke in peace. However, Jack responded to this by destroying several buildings with his trunk, throwing the minks into chaos, and he refused such an offer as he ordered his soldiers called Pleasures to attack. One of the Pleasures targeted a frightened young mink, but the mink suddenly leaped toward him and struck him with an electro attack. The rest of the minks followed his example as they blew the rest of the Pleasures away with electro, and Munji told Jack that the minks were all born warriors who would step up to defend their country in a heartbeat. Once again, he offered to have the Duke talk to Jack peacefully, but Jack refused any sort of talk as he ordered his gifters, people with strange animal-like appearances, to attack. Back in the present, the Straw Hats are all shocked by the story, with Luffy being excited to hear about a mammoth and Brook quietly explaining that this is why he told them not to mention samurai or Wano country. Luffy then sees that they are on a suspension bridge and rocks it for fun, scaring and infuriating his crewmates. As Wanda continues talking about the beast's pirates' search for Raizo, a crestfallen Luffy states that this probably means the ninjakin Emon talked about was not here, which mortifies his crewmates as Wanda perks up her ears. Wanda turns around in confusion after hearing Luffy mention a ninja. Usopp, Nami, and Brook immediately start beating Luffy up and try telling Wanda that they are doing so to show him minkship. However, Wanda knows she heard something about a ninja, and Brook claims on the spot that Luffy was wondering about how the Kanja patient was doing. Wanda is relieved that the Straw Hats care so much about Inuarashi, and the group draws closer to the Duke's sanatorium. At the sanatorium entrance, a lion mink named Shishilian is throwing other minks into a pit for mentioning sweet things around him. The minks are in awe at Shishilian's intensity but are grateful for his tough love and generosity. However, the mention of such pleasant traits angers Shishilian and causes him to throw part of the sanatorium at them. Wanda and the Straw Hats then meet Shishilian, and Wanda introduces the Straw Hats to them. Shishilian immediately bows down with high intensity and thanks the Straw Hats for saving his country before asking who their captain is. After Luffy steps forward, Shishilian hugs him with great force and displays intense gratitude, rubbing against Luffy's face so fast it starts to burn. Shishilian leads the Straw Hats into the sanatorium, where Chopper, Miyagi, and Tristan are tending to Inuarashi. The Straw Hats stare in awe at the massive canine mink as Wanda emotionally embraces him, and Inuarashi thanks the Straw Hats for saving his country. Luffy replies that he knows his crew did that despite him not knowing the whole story, and Inuarashi reveals that Luffy's group also helped save them too. Luffy then remarks that Inuarashi looks very strong, and Wanda is shocked at Luffy's rudeness, saying that Inuarashi is the strongest warrior in the country. Inuarashi deflects the statement by reminding Wanda that he was defeated, although Wanda states that they had the upper hand regardless. Inuarashi then turns his attention to Brook and salivates at the thought of chewing him, though he decides to wait for Brook to recover from his injuries. Inuarashi then takes note of the straw hat on Luffy's head, revealing that he and Nekomamushi had once set out to sea and met Shanks. When Luffy attempts to reply, Inuarashi suddenly falls asleep, shocking him. Wanda reveals that the two rulers of the Mokomo dukedom, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, hated each other so much that they would easily fight should they encounter each other. Thus, each ruler takes turns ruling, with Inuarashi ruling from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. while Nekomamushi rules during the other 12 hours. Everyone in Inuarashi's domain is asleep, including Miyagi, Tristan, and Shishilian. Wanda reveals that the ruler switch took place even in the intense battle with Jack 17 days ago. During the battle, the Mink citizens continued repelling the pleasures with Electro, although Jack easily overpowered them. The gifters then arrived and started overpowering the Minks with their unusual abilities. Right then, the Inuarashi musketeer squad came racing in, and the citizens retreated to leave the fighting to them. The musketeers easily overpowered the pleasures, but were shocked by the strange powers of the gifters. Wanda took on one of the gifters and disarmed him, but the gifter overpowered her by turning his arm into a wolf's head. However, Shishilian arrived and cut down the gifter as he and two others, known as the 3 Inuarashi musketeers, arrived. The 3 Inuarashi musketeers easily overwhelmed the gifters with tremendous power, and Shishilian attacked Jack, but Jack managed to repel him with his trunk after a brief struggle. Right then, Inuarashi arrived on a crocodile boar steed and told Jack to stop the attack as the two leaders confronted each other. The beast's pirates refused to stop until they found Raizo, despite the Mink's continued pleas that they did not know him. Tensions rose and the two sides prepared to resume fighting, but Inuarashi shouted for them to wait as he dismounted his steed and approached Jack alone. He unsheathed and raised his sword, but unexpectedly dropped it as he offered Jack the chance to search the entire island peacefully. However, Jack refused and swung his trunk at Inuarashi. The Minks were shocked and fearful for their duke's fate, while the beast's pirates were gleeful. Wanda attempted to attack them in anger, but Shishilian held her back as the dust cleared. Inuarashi could then be seen standing and holding Jack's trunk back, relieving the Minks and shocking the pirates. The pirates expressed their surprise that the Minks had such a strong fighter, although one of them stated that they had nothing to worry about since they followed Jack, a powerful pirate with a bounty of barely 1 billion. Jack expressed annoyance at his subordinates' boasting and told Inuarashi that he would only call off his attack once Raizo had been found. Inuarashi was appalled by Jack's lack of reason, and the pirate also stated that he liked causing destruction. Inuarashi then resigned himself to the fact that battle was their only option, and he ordered the musketeers to attack. The battle raged on, with the Minks using Electro and the Gifters using their animal powers to attack each other. Inuarashi and Jack fought each other one-on-one, and Inuarashi ran up Jack's trunk before driving his Electro-imbued sword into the pirate's head. The attack caused Jack to sway into a nearby building, demolishing it, and the Minks grew excited. However, Jack quickly emerged from the wreckage and stated that such an attack would not work on him before charging. Inuarashi said that this was how the gate to the Mokomo dukedom was destroyed, and he meets Jack's challenge as he swings his sword at the pirate's head, creating a massive clash. Back in the present, the Straw Hat Pirates react in surprise at the account of the large amount of power both sides had. However, Luffy does not care as he says that he will beat Jack someday. Zoro wonders about the outcome of the battle, and Wanda states that it got more intense from there. Inuarashi and Jack continued their clash, with Jack overpowering the Duke and throwing him into a building, although Inuarashi escaped before Jack could slam into him. 3 gifters, known as the Gifters' Grip Trio, slaughtered some musketeers before confronting the 3 Inuarashi musketeers. Shishilian stated that the 3 musketeers would win a 3-on-3 battle, although he quickly dispatched the Gifters' Grip Trio by himself immediately afterwards. As the battle continued, Zunesha lifted up its trunk as an eruption rain began. The sudden deluge of water swept away the beast's pirates, although Jack stood strong and could not be moved. The Minks rode crocodile boar steeds as they overwhelmed the disoriented pirates, although several of them recovered, attempting to fight back and hijack the steeds. Though the Minks had the upper hand during the flood, the pirates easily recovered once the water drained and the battle continued. Much time passed, and the visibly worn musketeers continued fighting the pirates as the sun began to set. Right then, the clock struck 6 p.m., and a loud cry came out from the whale forest. Inuarashi ordered his troops to retreat, saying that the shift system would still be in place despite the ongoing battle. He then told Jack to not think that he was the only unreasonable man in the city, and the musketeers vanished from the city. The Guardians, led by Nekomamushi, then raced into the city, with an angry Nekomamushi making threats against the invaders before grabbing Jack by the trunk and flipping him on his back. As Nekomamushi licked his paws, Jack returned to his human form and unsheathed his weapons. The Guardians prepared to battle the beast's pirates when the Heart Pirates suddenly came in to help them. Nekomamushi told Beppo that he was not obligated to fight, but Beppo was determined to defend his homeland, pleasing Nekomamushi. He and Jack then began their clash. While night still reigns over the Mokomo dukedom, Wanda continues telling the Straw Hats about the Mink Tribe's battle with Jack, revealing that it lasted 5 days. 17 days ago, Nekomamushi began an intense and fast-paced clash with Jack, and the Mink was surprised that the pirate could keep up with his staff. He managed to get close to Jack and knock him down, although Jack retaliated by knocking the Mink a fair distance back. Jack then charged at Nekomamushi, but the Mink blocked the attack by spinning his spear. Nekomamushi then sped around Jack and jumped between a few buildings before successfully knocking the pirate off balance. He then prepared a finishing blow, but Jack managed to recover and counter it, although Nekomamushi managed to kick him in the forehead. Jack was unfazed by the blow as he wiped away the mark it left, and Nekomamushi noted that Jack was much tougher to defeat than he anticipated. However, his curious demeanor quickly changed into a ferocious one as he shouted he would kill Jack. The pirate only replied that he would like to see the Mink try. Eventually, 6 a.m. arrived and the Guardians retreated, to the beast's pirates' exasperation. Nekomamushi told an unwilling Beppo to retreat before telling Jack to not let Inuarashi kill him so he could finish the pirate off the next night. Inuarashi and the musketeers then arrived, and the Gifters decided to attack Inuarashi, but were thwarted by the musketeers as their leader resumed his battle with Jack. Inuarashi managed to overwhelm Jack and knock him into a building, and he complained that, because of this, he had to smell Nekomamushi's scent, but Jack emerged from the wreckage and knocked him into the building on the opposite side. Inuarashi recovered from the blow, and the two continued to clash. The musketeers and the guardians rotated in and out of battle for the next 5 days, and despite the beast's pirates sending in reinforcements from their fleet in the ocean below, the Minks eventually managed to get the upper hand. However, they could not overwhelm Jack himself, although Jack was equally unable to take down Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, which resulted in him growing impatient and ending the battle with a poisonous gas weapon. In the present, the Straw Hats are shocked to hear about this, and Chopper reveals that Jack used one of Caesar Clown's gas weapons to destroy this country. Robin deduces that these weapons made their way from Caesar to Doflamingo, who trafficked it to Kaido, Jack's captain, and Luffy gets angry at Caesar. 12 days ago, the gas spread into Kuro City, immediately causing Wanda, Inuarashi, and all the other musketeers to fall to the ground. Except for the ones who retreated to the back of the right flank fortress, most of the Minks were subdued and slaughtered, as the beast's pirates took pleasure in repeating their question about the samurai that the Minks had repeatedly claimed to not know before killing them. In the present, Wanda grows emotional as she recounts the atrocity, but she continues, revealing that the Guardians were also subdued and attacked. However, the pirates were still getting no answer, so they crucified and tortured the strongest Mink warriors, including Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. They continued interrogating the Minks about the samurai, and the determined Inuarashi and Nekomamushi continued denying any knowledge of one, causing a wrathful Jack to attack both of them. The torture lasted for a full day before Jack departed from Zoo, leaving behind some of his men. In the present, Inuarashi reveals that the Straw Hats had caused this, and the pirates are surprised that he is awake. Inuarashi says that he read Jack's obituary and realized that he had tried to rescue Doflamingo, whom the Straw Hats on Dressrosa had brought down. Thus, the Straw Hats had spared them from further attack, and Wanda is even more grateful toward them. Chopper then reveals that he, Sanji, Nami, Brook, Momonosuke, and Caesar arrived on Zoo the day after Jack left. They were all bewildered that Zoo was located on an elephant, and Caesar tried convincing them not to enter, but they forced him to carry them up there like a hot air balloon. They went through the destroyed gate and surveyed the heavily damaged Mokomo dukedom, with the possibility of invaders putting them on edge. Sanji left Nami, Brook, and Momonosuke at the gate as he took Chopper and Caesar on ahead, and Chopper had to hit Caesar to get him moving. As Sanji, Chopper, and Caesar surveyed the land ahead, Brook, Nami, and Momonosuke pondered about what happened to the country. Suddenly they heard Tristan cry out for help as she emerged from the forest being chased by Sheepshed and Jinrumi on a crocodile boar steed. Nami deduced that she was a victim and Sheepshed was a villain, so she pulled Tristan towards safety. Sheepshed turned around as he gleefully stated his desire to torture and interrogate Tristan. Nami left the pirates to Brook, and Sheepshed was appalled at Brook's skeletal appearance. Brook then used Soul Solid to freeze the ground around them, causing Sheepshed and Jinrumi's steed to slip and fall. However, Tristan was frightened by Brook and Momonosuke's strange appearances and ran away, causing the Straw Hats to chase after her, and an enraged Sheepshed got up with the intent of pursuing the pirates. Meanwhile, Sanji, Chopper, and Caesar discovered the gas-covered Kuro City and were shocked by all the subdued Minks lying in the streets. As they prepared to leave in order to avoid succumbing to the gas, Pedro called out to them. The heavily injured Mink deduced that the pirates were not on Jack's side and begged them to save Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, saying the world is waiting for them. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi are seen unconscious at their crucifixes, with Inuarashi missing his left leg and Nekomamushi missing his left forearm. In Duke Inuarashi's sanatorium, Chopper continues telling his crew about the Curly Hat Pirates' arrival on Zoo 10 days ago, saying that he, Sanji, and Caesar Clown departed from Kuro City in order to get away from the gas. They convened inside the nearby forest, and Caesar started giggling with glee that his gas weapon, Koro, was a success. Chopper and Sanji were shocked and angry that Caesar created the gas used to incapacitate the Minks, although Caesar denied any responsibility for the Minks' plight, causing Chopper to beat him up. Caesar also mentioned that the Minks likely had less than 48 hours left to live after exposure, angering Chopper and Sanji even more. Suddenly, Zunesha lifted up its trunk and sprayed water onto Zoo, causing a flood that swept away Chopper and Caesar. Sanji used Skywalk to travel over the flood, picking Chopper up and kicking Caesar onto a nearby tree branch, which he and Chopper landed on as well. Caesar was angry at Sanji, but they suddenly heard Nami crying out, and Sanji ordered Caesar to neutralize Koro while he rescued Nami and the others, convincing the scientist to do so by threatening to crush his heart. Sanji flew over to Nami, Brook, and Momonosuke, who were being attacked by Sheepshed. Sanji defeated Sheepshed with a diable Jambi kick, causing Jinrumi and the other beasts' pirates to retreat from the island and report that the samurai was not present. Meanwhile, Chopper and Caesar returned to Kuro City, and Caesar spread a gas called Roko that removed Koro from the air, causing some of the minks to stir. Chopper called out to his crewmates, who ran from the forest to Kuro City, not knowing that Tristan was watching them. Nami, Brook, and Momonosuke were shocked to see the destruction, and they entered the city carefully, not knowing what the minks were like. Suddenly, Wanda came rushing at them, thinking they were allied with Jack. She clashed with Nami, and Nami managed to overpower her. But the weakened Wanda was intent on avenging her people, so she pulled out a lit explosive. However, Tristan came running to them, telling Wanda that the curly hat pirates had saved her, and Pedro then arrived, affirming Tristan's statement and putting out the fuse of the explosive. Wanda grew emotional to hear that they had helpers, and Pedro showed her that the gas had been cleared away. Chopper and Caesar then arrived with medical supplies, with the former being determined to heal all the minks in the short time they had left. The Straw Hats and the conscious minks mobilized to create an antidote, with Tristan retrieving the mink doctors and citizens hiding in the right flank fortress. Chopper and Caesar started developing the antidote as the mink citizens came to Kuro City, expressing shock at seeing the incapacitated warriors. Eventually, the antidote was finished and administered to all of the poisoned minks, and the unconscious Inuarashi and Nekomamushi were removed from their crucifixes. As night fell, Sanji brought hot soup for the minks to eat, and Brook played Binksake to the crowd of cured minks. Back in the present, Chopper finishes his story as his crewmates are pleased to hear about the services the Curly Hats did. Luffy gets angry at Jack again for poisoning the minks and expresses his desire to take down the pirate, although he is reminded that Jack received an obituary. However, Wanda expresses her doubt about Jack's death, remembering his monstrous strength. Chopper and Wanda then prepare to go see and tend to Nekomamushi, and Robin asks Wanda about her sleep schedule. Wanda reveals that as a ruler's aide, she can be active at all hours of the day and go anywhere on Zoo to communicate with both rulers. She wants to tell Nekomamushi about Inuarashi's state, and the Straw Hats wish to go with her and Chopper to see Nekomamushi. As Wanda, Carrot, and the Straw Hat pirates go off to see Nekomamushi, Wanda remarks on the full moon in the sky, saying she is glad it is covered by clouds. Luffy then says that Sanji and Caesar Clown were still present on Zoo in her story, asking her what happened to them later. Wanda hesitates and Brook decides to explain it himself. He tells the Straw Hats that most of the minks were not told about this, and this may be hard for them to hear. He then reveals that Sanji is likely not coming back, which angers Luffy, who pointed to the note Sanji left, which states that he would be back. However, Nami and Brook reply that the situation is far more complicated than what the note suggests, and that it may have been better to tell the story before showing the note. Brook then tells the story, explaining how when they were being pursued by the Big Mom pirates, the enemy pirates overheard Luffy's call to the Sunny crew revealing that their destination was Zoo. Although Zoo was a phantom island that could not be found with a log pose, one of their Big Mom pirates was from the island, and so 2 days ago their ship docked at Zoo. On the ship, Pecoms contacted Big Mom, telling her to leave the expedition to him as he was a native Zoo. Later, Pecoms and Capone Bege made it onto Zoo and into the Mokomo Dukedom, where they discovered the destroyed Kuro City. Pecoms flew into a rage upon seeing his hometown destroyed, and looked around for survivors but found none, causing him to scream in anguish. Inside the right flank fortress, Sanji prepared meals for the minks, who loved them, and afterwards he went out to interact with the female minks. As Chopper, Miyagi, and Tristan treated patients, Sanji nuzzled with female minks in their traditional greeting known as minkship, but wanted nothing to do with male minks, leaving them disappointed. Meanwhile, Wanda outfitted Nami with a dress, revealing that exchanging clothes was a big part of mink culture, and that the dress was a natural treasure, causing Nami to get excited at the prospect of selling it for big money. Sanji then saw Nami in the dress, causing him to race at her in excitement, but she punched him out of the fortress. Meanwhile, Chopper asked Brook where Momonosuke was, and Brook revealed that he was still in his room, though it was for the best that the minks not see him in his human form. Caesar Clown said that they should abandon him and leave the island as soon as possible, but Chopper got angry at the suggestion, telling him to continue working on treatments for the minks. A mink came to collect treatments from Caesar, but the scientist, mortified at his name being associated with humanitarian treatment, disguised himself. The mink told Brook that his fans were outside, which were dogs looking to chew on the skeleton, and Brook was not inclined to go out and meet them. At the fortress gate, the two guards braced themselves as two strangers came up to them, but realized that one of them was Pecoms. Pecoms bawled with happiness as he saw his fellow minks alive, and embraced the two guards. He asked if the Straw Hats had done the damage to the Mokomo Dukedom, but ultimately concluded that they did before the guards could correct him, causing him to go into a fit of rage. Pecoms then entered the right flank fortress, where he reunited with his family and more of his kinfolk. The minks revealed to him that Jack and the Beast's pirates had destroyed the country while the Straw Hats had saved them, causing Pecoms to curse Jack. The Straw Hats saw Pecoms and Bege from a balcony, and Caesar grew afraid and asked for the Straw Hats' continued protection, but Sanji replied that since Luffy defeated Doflamingo, Caesar was no longer of any worth to them as a trump card. Out of curiosity, Sanji asked why the Big Mom pirates wanted Caesar, and the scientist replied that he had taken money to fund a commission Big Mom gave him, but he spent it on other things. Sanji replied that he deserved what was coming. Caesar offered to assist Sanji in eliminating the Big Mom pirates, and the Curly Hats realized that they may be in trouble as well since Luffy had declared war with Big Mom on Fishman Island. However, Sanji refused Caesar's advances and told Brook to come with him and the rest to stay as he made eye contact with Bege. Back in the present, the Straw Hats remark on 2-4 Emperor's crews being on Zoo in such a short time span, and Luffy wonders if Sanji fought Pecoms, as he does not really care due to having declared war on Big Mom. Brook continues his story, revealing that Sanji and Brook went out with Pecoms and Bege. Sanji was willing to face the two pirates head-on, but stated that if a fight was in order they would have to do it outside of Zoo. However, a tearful Pecoms embraced Sanji, shocking the Straw Hats and Bege. Pecoms thanked Sanji for saving his people, and revealed to him that in addition to capturing Caesar, their crew had another mission that would likely tear the Straw Hats apart. However, out of gratitude, he was willing to purposely fail that mission as long as they got Caesar. Bege reprimanded Pecoms, but the Mink silenced the newer member of the crew, saying he would take any punishment Big Mom gave him. This caused Bege to grow angry and call Pecoms a coward as he raised his hand toward the kneeling Mink's back. Suddenly, a rapid stream of bullets emerged from Buggy's hand, striking Pecoms in the back. 2 days ago, Pecoms collapsed as Capone Bege finished shooting him, and a shocked Sanji and Brook noticed 2 men with machine guns in an opening in the palm of Bege's hand. Bege reflected that Pecoms was cowardly and weak for letting his feelings interfere with business and told his men to come out. A door opened in Bege's chest, and several miniature gunmen ran out, turning to normal size upon crossing a red barrier around Bege's body. Bege's men surrounded Sanji and Brook, and Bege revealed that he ate the Shiro no Mai, which allowed his body to become a fortress. He then told them about how he was in the same generation as their captain, and reflected on the trouble Luffy caused him on Sabayati Archipelago when he was forced to fight the Marines. Bege stated that he wished to not make a scene here, as he knew about the Mink's strength. Sanji replied that he did not want the Minks involved either, and he and Brook prepared to fight against the fire tank pirates. However, Bege knew they would do that and called out to Vito, who brought the captured Nami and Chopper along with him. Vito informed Bege that Caesar Clown was hiding in a nearby tree. Bege threatened to shoot the scientist with sea-stone bullets, which caused him to fall out of the tree. However, Bege revealed that he had no sea-stone bullets, but he did have a sea-stone staff, which one of his subordinates held onto Caesar. Bege then ordered the captured Curly Hats to go into his body fortress. In the present, Luffy wonders how his crewmates went inside Bege's body and is reprimanded for forgetting about Bege's ability. Brook continues his story, revealing that they were brought into Bege's body fortress in chains, except for Sanji, who sat at a long banquet table. Bege then appeared in his fortress as a purple liquid before solidifying into his normal body and offered Sanji some wine as he sat at the other end of the table. As Vito lit his cigar, Bege revealed that the Big Mom pirates' intentions had changed since the two crews fought a week ago, and he tossed Sanji an invitation to Big Mom's tea party. Sanji was confused, but Bege read the contents, revealing that Sanji, as the third son of the Vinsmoke family, was arranged to marry Pudding of the Charlotte family. Sanji and his crewmates were appalled, and Sanji's cigarette fell out of his mouth as it gaped open in shock. Sanji's cigarette fell to the floor and caught on fire, causing an angry Bege to quickly stamp it out. Biggie called Sanji ill-bred, and Brook stated that the name Vinsmoke sent chills down his spine. Nami, Brook, and Chopper struggled to process the revelation about Sanji, and Nami recalled how Sanji revealed that he was from the North Blue, though grew up in the East Blue, when they read Lyre Noland on Jaya. Brook was surprised to hear this, as the North Blue and the East Blue are separated by the Red Line, which very few people could travel across. Caesar then revealed to them that Pudding was Big Mom's daughter, meaning that they would likely become Big Mom's subordinates if Sanji got married, which scared them. Sanji refused to go to the tea party and get married, but Bege replied that the invitation was for him to see, not for him to respond to. The pirate then revealed that his body was moving with them inside it, and that he had full control over it. He manipulated the chandeliers and rugs into knives and cannons pointed at Sanji as he caused Nami to sink into the ground, displaying his unlimited power over his fortress. Sanji shouted at him to stop, and Bege did, stating that Big Mom's invitation could not be refused no matter what. Vito then walked over to Sanji and reiterated his captain's point, saying even the demons of hell would come to Big Mom's tea parties if they were invited. Vito then whispered something into Sanji's ear which shocked him, and Sanji asked how they knew that, which Bege called a silly question, telling Sanji that Big Mom possesses unfathomable power and influence, allowing her to find out and do anything she wants. Sanji took more puffs from his cigarette as Nami, Chopper, and Brook asked what Vito had told him, and he asked Bege for a pen and paper. Bege obliged, and Sanji wrote a note on the paper before handing it to Nami. He told his chained crewmates that he never expected to deal with this part of his heritage, and that he needed to go and sort things out by himself. As his crewmates got confused, Sanji asked them if they were ready before hurling them out of Bege's body. As Nami, Chopper, and Brook returned to normal size and hit the ground, an appalled Caesar clown wondered why Sanji did not free him as Sanji started attacking the panicked fire tank pirates. Vito warned his crewmates that they could not harm the Straw Hat, and Sanji kicked one pirate's gun into the air. He then grabbed the gun and slammed Caesar's head into the floor with his foot, pointing the gun at the scientist. As Caesar writhed in anger and the fire tank pirates took aim, Sanji shouted at them that he knew they could not touch him, as he had figured out that the person who changed the condition of his bounty to only alive was the same person arranging the wedding. Thus, the person did not want the fire tank pirates to harm him in any way. Sanji agreed to go to the wedding with the pirates as long as his crewmates were spared, and Bege ordered his men to stand back as he noticed Nekomamushi standing behind his real body. Bege grew nervous to see the monstrous mink, and Nekomamushi asked about Picam's body. Bege claimed that the two of them were crewmates, and that Picam's had been taken out by remnants of Jack's forces. Nami then came and contested his story, which Bege denied as she, Chopper, and Brook looked inside Bege's body to see Sanji. Sanji turned toward them and promised to come back as Bege closed the openings into his body. The pirate captain then leaped away and manifested tank treads around his legs, allowing him to speed away. Nami raced after him but failed to catch up, and Sanji's note flew off of Nami, coming unfolded as it landed on the ground. Wanda then arrived to help the Straw Hats, but Nekomamushi stopped her. Brook came to the realization that Sanji would likely not come back as the contents of his note were revealed, which stated that he was going to meet a woman and would be back. As the Guardians tended to the Straw Hats and removed their chains, Nekomamushi told Wanda to let the Straw Hats keep the details of the incident to themselves, as it was what they wanted. He also had his soldiers transport the injured Picams to medical care before leaping into a bush of silver vine. Back in the present, the Straw Hats process the news, and Luffy wonders if Sanji will come back with his wife. However, Brook reminds him that the bride is Big Mom's daughter, meaning that they would become Big Mom's subordinates. Thus, it seemed as though Sanji went alone in order to cut himself off from the crew and deal with the situation himself, preventing the Straw Hats from falling under Big Mom's control. Usopp reflects on the Vinsmoke name, noting that they had journeyed from the North Blue to the East Blue and then to the New World, which is a very considerable feat. Robin states that she recognizes the name. Nami apologizes for allowing him to leave before the rest of the crew got here, and Robin is fine, though Chopper is not since he does not know if Sanji is coming back. However, Zoro is fine with that, as he states that Sanji had put them into more trouble. They were already in conflict with Kaido due to crippling his smile trade and going against his crew, and now Sanji had gotten involved with another emperor, Big Mom. Some of the Straw Hats get angry at Zoro, but Luffy interjects, stating the only thing they could do now is go into Big Mom's territory and find Sanji to ask about his motivations. His crewmates are appalled at the idea of invading an emperor's territory, but Brook states that the Big Mom pirates left behind someone who could help them. He then focuses back on the present, intent on continuing the journey to Nekomamushi. As the Straw Hats, Wanda, and Carrot ride to the whale forest, Brook reveals that Picams had agreed to spare their crew from Big Mom's plan out of gratitude for them saving his people, but this proved to be his undoing as Capone Bege shot him and left him on the island. However, because of this, the Straw Hats could now gain information on Big Mom's location, and Luffy promises to get Sanji back from her. As Usopp wonders what condition the lion mink is in, a swarm of yellow insects flies toward the group. Wanda and Carrot reveal that the insects are bloodsuckers known as suchis, and they can easily kill humans due to their lack of fur. Wanda reveals that the suchis are also capable of feeding on and weakening Zunesha, and the suchis bite into the steed Luffy's group is riding on, causing it to fall to the ground. The Straw Hats recover and battle the suchis, and Frankie uses his nipple light to lure the suchis to him. Wanda prepares to help exterminate the suchis as one of them bites into Luffy, although the pirate manages to repel it by covering his arms in Busoshoku Haki. The Straw Hats and Wanda all unleash powerful attacks on the suchis, sending the remainder of the swarm falling to the ground. Wanda thanks the Straw Hats for their continued help, and the group resumes their journey to see Nekomamushi. Brook then sings a song about going to see Nekomamushi, which initially consists of him saying the same line over and over, to Luffy's confusion. Brook then sings about how Nekomamushi lives a lonely life before concluding, and the Straw Hats wonder if Nekomamushi was like that. However, Brook admits that he only made the events of Song up, shocking them. The group then reaches the Whale Forest residential district under the giant whale tree, and the Guardians cheer for the oncoming Straw Hats. Luffy is greeted by Roddy and Blackback, who apologize to him for attacking him earlier, saying they sometimes get too zealous against intruders. Pedro then calls out to Straw Hats from a tree, thanking them for saving the Mink Tribe and seconding the apology to Luffy, as he was present during the attack. He then leaps down from the tree and tells Luffy that the Heart Pirates are waiting for them in the back, but Luffy wants to see Nekomamushi and Pecans first. Upon hearing Luffy mention Pecans, Pedro nuzzles up to Luffy. He whispers to Luffy that Pecans is recovering in the back of the main building, but the details of the attempt on his life have not been made public to the other minks. He then confides that he knows Sanji is in a predicament and offers the Guardians help. A female reindeer mink named Milky then arrives to take Chopper to see Nekomamushi, and Chopper becomes smitten with her. However, Milky reveals that Nekomamushi is currently taking a bath, shocking Chopper. Inside the main building, Nekomamushi eats lasagna while taking a bath, and Chopper rushes in, yelling at him angrily for doing so as his wounds would reopen. Nekomamushi refuses to accept such restrictions due to his love of freedom as he climbs out of the tub, and he hugs the other Straw Hats in gratitude. In the middle of the embrace, Nekomamushi spots a bouncing ball, causing him to leap after it and reopen his wounds. He is then sent to bed, and Chopper prepares to administer an injection to him. Fearing the pain of a needle, Nekomamushi has Robin wave Foxtail in front of him, distracting him enough for Chopper to give him the shot. Meanwhile, Luffy, Nami, Wanda, Carrot, and Pedro meet with Pecans, who reveals that he survived by absorbing many of Bege's bullets with his devil fruit power. He apologizes for not being able to keep Sanji out of captivity, and Luffy asks him who is arranging the wedding. Pecans replies that it is Big Mom and Sanji's father, the patriarch of the Vinsmoke family. The father is an infamous man in the underworld and leads an army known as Germa 66. Nami is shocked to hear this, thinking Germa 66 is a mythical army, but Pecans affirms its reality, stating that Sanji comes from a family of killers. After Pecans reveals that Sanji comes from a family of killers, Luffy replies that he does not care and only wants to know if Sanji will come back or not. He states that although he is fine with Sanji getting married, he does not want to serve Big Mom, and so the Big Mom pirates will have to serve him instead. The audacious statement causes Pecans to go hysterical and bump his head on the wall, causing him to bounce and fall out of bed, which inflames his wounds. Luffy and Carrot laugh at Pecans' display, and as Pecans gets back into bed, he reveals that Sanji has no choice about attending the wedding, as anyone who refuses tea party invitations will receive a gruesome present, the decapitated head of someone close to them. Big Mom could easily give Sanji the head of one of his crewmates, or one of his fellow cooks from Barity, or even someone from the Kamabaka Kingdom, as her status as an emperor allows her enough power to do anything she wants. Nami notes that this may have been what Vito whispered to Sanji 2 days ago, and Pecans reveals to Luffy that the marriage will not force the Straw Hats to serve Big Mom, as the Emperor is only interested in Sanji's family. However, Pecans says that the marriage will mean Sanji will no longer be part of the Straw Hats, which causes an angry Luffy to throttle him by his shirt collar. Luffy refuses to accept the possibility of Sanji leaving, and as he forces Pecans onto the floor, he asks the mink what he is going to do. Pecans replies that he will head back to Big Mom after he recovers in order to get back at Capone Bege for attacking him, and Luffy tells the mink to take him along. Nami protests, and Luffy tells her that he will be going alone in order to better infiltrate Big Mom's territory. Pecans tries to dissuade Luffy as well, and Carrot gets excited at Luffy's plan, causing Wanda to reprimand her. Pecans' protests fall on deaf ears, and Luffy runs off to get Chopper so Pecans can feel better sooner, causing the mink to fall off his bed once again. Luffy runs out to the porch, where he sees Zoro sitting on a bench. He asks if Zoro heard the conversation, and Zoro replies that he just barely did. Luffy grins, wondering if Zoro is concerned about Sanji, causing Zoro to get mad. Chopper, Milky, Usopp, Robin, and Brook then come to the building, and Luffy tells Chopper that Pecans is screaming and hitting his head against the wall, causing Chopper to rush inside to treat him. Brook is then attacked by several dog guardians who chew on him, and Nekomamushi then approaches despite Chopper's order to get rest, greeting Luffy and leaping into him and Zoro, which destroys part of the porch. Nekomamushi becomes dazed and his wounds reopen, and as the Straw Hats wonder what to do with him, Law and the Heart Pirates then approach Luffy. The 20 members of the Heart Pirates happily greet Luffy, but Law pulls him aside to talk, disappointing his crewmates. Luffy and Law go inside, where Luffy reveals Sanji's situation and his intention to enter Big Mom's territory, and he asks Law to hold off on their mission against Kaido. However, Law replies that they likely do not have that option, as Kaido is increasingly likely to attack them, especially since he knows how to get to Zoo. Awe wonders what will happen to this country if it is attacked by the beast's pirates again, and the Guardians suddenly appear, crying tears of happiness and appreciation for Law's concern for them. They throw a party for the two pirate crews, and everyone feasts as Nekomamushi unveils the main dish, lasagna. As the party rages on, Luffy wonders if he has forgotten something, but cannot remember anything and continues partying. Meanwhile, Kin Iman, Kanjuro, and Buriate ride a creature up Zunesha's leg, and as the pirates and guardians fall asleep after the party, Robin, Frankie, and Brook sit down at the entrance to the Mokomo dukedom. They are intent on preventing Kin Iman and Kanjuro from getting in, as they believe that the Minks will not take kindly to allies of Raizo, who caused Jack to destroy the country. Robin suggests taking turns through the night, but Frankie and Brook decide against it, and they all keep watch together. However, the next morning they are all sound asleep as Kin Iman, Kanjuro, and Buriate reach Zunesha's back on a rotund tiger named Torasaburo. The samurai celebrate as Kanjuro turns Torasaburo back into a drawing again. They then turn to Buriate to ask him for information, revealing they are comrades of Raizo. This causes Buriate to panic and run from them in tears, intent on alerting the other Minks to the presence of samurai. As day breaks over Zoo, Robin, Frankie, and Brook wake up and they realize that they slept through the night. They then see the drawing of Torasaburo right next to Rhinosuke, and realize that Kin Iman and Kanjuro have gotten onto the island. The trio know that the Minks are not going to take well to the samurai mentioning their comrade Raizo, as Jack and the Beast's pirates destroyed the Mokomo dukedom while looking for the non-existent Raizo, and so they race to stop the samurai. Meanwhile, Buriate races up the steps to a bell, and he rings the bell as he calls out the samurai's arrival. Inside the right flank fortress, a crocodile boar steed is prepared for Inuarashi, who mounts it and tells Shishilian to round up everyone else and follow him as he rides toward Kuro City. Shishilian tells Inuarashi's subjects to do as they were told, but the subjects were told nothing, and he orders them to come with him and follow Duke Inuarashi. Meanwhile, Nekomamushi and the Guardians run out to Kuro City, with Nekomamushi stating that this is a serious incident and telling everyone to not fall behind. The Guardians run around the sleeping Straw Hat pirates, and as Nami wakes up, she overhears one of them reveal that two samurai have appeared. A shocked Nami tries to wake Luffy up, but struggles to do so. Meanwhile, Kin Iman and Kanjuro walk through the forest and hear the bell, and they wonder if it is welcoming them. Suddenly, they hear a rustling in the bushes, and Momonosuke emerges, happily reuniting with his father and Kanjuro. He reveals that no one was around when he woke up, and so he went looking for people. Nearby, the Straw Hats run through the woods, and a half-asleep Luffy wonders why they are running right now. Nami reveals that the samurai have entered Zoo, and Luffy gets excited at the prospect of another party to welcome them. But Nami states that the Minks have a score to settle due to the samurai's comrade causing the Mokomo dukedom's destruction. The musketeers and guardians race into Kuro City, and Pedro leaps up a tall building in order to see the entire city. However, he sees Inuarashi walking nearby and tries to warn Nekomamushi, but the ruler cannot hear him. Inuarashi appears at the intersection directly behind Nekomamushi, and one of the guardians sees him in shock, but they try their best to prevent the two rulers from seeing each other. However, when Shishilian enters the intersection, he sees Nekomamushi and gasps, causing the two rulers to turn around and see each other. The two rulers approach each other despite their underlings trying to stop them, and a short distance away stand the samurai, who have reached Kuro City and wonder what is going on. The Straw Hats then reach the city and tackle the samurai, hiding them behind a piece of rubble. They tell the samurai to go back to the Thousand Sunny, as the samurai's presence would just add fuel to the fire. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi immediately start insulting each other, bringing attention to each other's missing limbs. Inuarashi remembers Jack torturing him for Raizo's whereabouts, but the dog mink had continued denying any knowledge of the ninja, causing Jack to cut at and eventually sever his lower left leg. Around that time, some of the Beast's pirates tried to get information out of Nekomamushi by threatening his fallen comrades, but Nekomamushi called them cowards and pulled on the chains binding him to the crucifix, challenging the shocked pirates to give him all their attacks. Back in the present, the two rulers state that they would have been fine with each other's death, and decide to fight to the death right now despite their underlings' pleas. As Inuarashi's sword clashes with Nekomamushi's spear, Kin Iman suddenly breaks Usopp's grasp on him and heads out into the open in order to stop the fighting. Momonosuke and Kanjuro then emerge despite the Straw Hats grabbing onto them, and the Minks are surprised to see the samurai as they approach the trio. Kin Iman then introduces himself as a retainer of the Kozuki family from Wano country and reveals that he is looking for his comrade Raizo. The Straw Hats cry in fear and wonder if they need to fight to get out of this, but all of the Minks suddenly sit down. In tears, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi reveal that Raizo is safe. The Straw Hats are bewildered by this, and Usopp confronts the Minks in disbelief about them risking all their lives to protect Raizo. However, Nekomamushi reveals that they have been friends with the Kozuki family for a long time and would do anything to keep their allies safe, even if it meant the destruction of their civilization. This revelation moves the Straw Hats to tears. Somewhere at sea, the fleet of the Beast's pirates is sailing. Inside the damaged but still functional Mammoth, a recovering Jack sits below deck and reads the newspaper article about his supposed death. Mocking such a thought, Jack shreds the newspaper and orders his men to make the ship move faster. In order to verify his claim of being a retainer of the Kozuki family, Kin Iman removes his kimono, revealing the crest of the family on his back. Behind him, the Straw Hats ponder in shock about this sudden turn of events, but understand why the samurai kept their allegiance a secret from them. Nekomamushi interrupts Inuarashi as the latter talks to the samurai, causing Inuarashi to shout at him and the two to trade insults once again. However, as they start fighting and prepare to physically clash again, Momonosuke shouts at them to stop, expressing disappointment at the two's enmity and saying it would make his father sad. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi then bow down to Momonosuke, and the Straw Hats are confused, as they thought Kin Iman was Momonosuke's father and just heard Kin Iman refer to Momonosuke with the suffix sama. Kin Iman reveals that Momonosuke is actually not his son, and instead is Kozuki Momonosuke, the son and heir of the daimyo of Kuri, Kozuki Oden. Kin Iman apologizes for lying to the Straw Hats, as he and Momonosuke had pretended to be father and son in order to protect themselves. The Straw Hats' bewilderment just keeps growing, and Momonosuke approaches the Straw Hats to apologize to them himself. However, Luffy does not care about Momonosuke's heritage, causing the two of them to get into a fight. Momonosuke demonstrates his perverted nature afterwards, but everyone is happy. In order to keep Momonosuke happy, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi reluctantly decide to make a truce, and they clasp hands. This causes the Minks to rejoice at Zu becoming reunited, at least for now. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi then take the Straw Hats, Law, and the samurai to see Raizo. They travel up a path on the whale tree, and Luffy, Chopper, Usopp, and Frankie are excited at the chance to see a real ninja. Momonosuke tells Kin Iman that he is still not feeling well, saying that he hears a voice calling out to him from within. Kin Iman replies that Oden had the same ability. As the male Straw Hats grow more excited to see Raizo and imagine him as a stereotypical ninja, they reach a hidden entrance in the back of the whale tree. The Straw Hats run down to see the ninja, and they hear Raizo cry out from inside. As Inuarashi and Nekomamushi come down to the cave, a tearful Raizo asks what happened, as he noticed that the Minks giving him food were all injured. The Straw Hats then arrive and see Raizo chained to a red poneglyph. They are shocked that he is very stocky, and does not anywhere closely resemble the ninja they had imagined. Nekomamushi apologizes to Raizo for lying to him and trapping him here for his protection, and Raizo then sees Kin Iman, Kanjuro, and Momonosuke coming down the stairs. The four Wano country natives happily reunite, and Raizo is released from his chains by his comrades. Robin, Nami, and Brook then reach the bottom of the stairs, and they look in awe at the Kozuki family crest on the wall and the giant red poneglyph in the center. Robin asks Inuarashi and Nekomamushi for permission to read it, which they grant her. Robin recalls studying the poneglyphs on Ohara before its destruction and notes that this poneglyph's red color is much different from every other poneglyph she has read, which were all blue. Inuarashi replies that this poneglyph has a different purpose. Meanwhile, Raizo is perturbed by Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper for staring at him intently, and the three Straw Hats tell him to perform various ninja arts and act like a stereotypical ninja. Raizo is confused as to why they want to see that, and Frankie replies that all men love ninjas. Raizo is smitten by this praise, and Frankie, Zoro, and Law join in on asking him to perform ninja arts, but he plainly tells them that ninja do not act like the pirates have imagined, and they do not perform their skills for show. This causes the Straw Hats to sulk in disappointment, and Raizo is eventually moved, causing him to use Enta no Jutsu and disappear before reappearing behind Usopp. Raizo then uses Bunshin no Jutsu to make clones of himself, and Kawarami no Jutsu to escape from Luffy's grasp. He runs on the ceiling and uses his Hana Shuriken to form the kanji for shinobi on the wall, and he concludes his performance, causing the male Straw Hats to be in glee and awe. Afterwards, the male Straw Hats and the samurai take Raizo outside, where they see the destroyed Kuro city from atop the whale tree. Raizo and the samurai burst into tears for the destroyed city, with Raizo remembering it as a bustling town before the attack. Raizo curses the Minks for taking rash actions to protect him, and vows to avenge them as best he can. Nekomamushi then appears and calls the pirates and samurai back in, revealing that the red poneglyph has been translated. Inside the whale tree, Nami notes that the text Robin translated is nautical coordinates that she can pinpoint the location of on a chart. Inuarashi reveals that this is a road poneglyph, which will guide people to the end of the Grand Line. The whale forest is considered sacred and is heavily protected for this very reason. The Straw Hats assume that this means the road poneglyph leads them to Laugh Tale, but Inuarashi corrects them, saying that there are actually 4 road poneglyphs. Each of them reveal the coordinates of an island, and when all 4 of these islands are found, one can connect them and finally locate Laugh-Tale and find the One Piece. The Straw Hats become extremely excited to hear about something relating to their final goal, and Luffy races off to rescue Sanji and find the other road poneglyphs. His crewmates stop him, but Nekomamushi states that Luffy's plan will lead him to them, because 2 of the road poneglyphs are in the possession of the Emperor's Big Mom and Kaido. The Straw Hats are appalled to hear this, though Luffy takes it in stride, as he planned on beating the Emperors anyway. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi reveal that the poneglyph's messages can be copied with ink on a special paper, and Usopp proposes that they sneak into Big Mom and Kaido's territories, copy the text, run away, and reach Laugh-Tale without anyone realizing it. However, Luffy rejects his idea due to it being cowardly, and Usopp is frightened by the amount of power they are going against. Meanwhile, Nekomamushi voices his concern for Robin, as she is the only one who can read the text on the poneglyphs, making her a target for others who want to find out the true history of the Void Century. However, Robin is confident that her crewmates will protect her as she remembers them rescuing her on Eni's lobby, and the other Straw Hats pledge their continued resolve to protect her. Meanwhile, Jack dreams about ordering his men to attack the 4 marine battleships transporting Doflamingo a week ago. Sengoku, Fujitora, and Tsuru braced themselves for battle, and Doflamingo smiled as the Marines raced to their battle stations. The Marines and the Beast's pirates opened fire on each other, but the Mammoth managed to evade the fire as it charged at the ship with Sengoku, Fujitora, and Tsuru on it, and Fujitora unsheathed his sword as he prepared to unleash his power on Jack's ship. However, Jack is woken from his dream by his crewmates, who reveal that Sheepshed, Jinrumi, and the men he left on Zoo have returned. Back in the whale tree, Robin asks the Minks and the Samurai how they know so much about the poneglyphs. The Minks and Samurai look to Momonosuke for an approval, and their master states that they do not have to hide anything from the Straw Hats. Luffy gets mad at Momonosuke for acting like he is in charge, even though he is. Nekomamushi then reveals that 800 years ago, the members of the Kozuki family invented the poneglyphs, which shocks the Straw Hats. The knowledge of how to construct them was not passed down, only how to read and write the inscriptions. However, that was not passed down to Momonosuke from his father Oden, and the samurai struggle to reveal the reason why, though many of the Straw Hats figure it out. As he and his fellow retainers struggle to hold back tears, Kinemon reveals that Oden was executed by Kaido and the shogun of Wano Country. The Beast's pirates now occupy Wano Country, and when the Straw Hats inquire as to why they killed Oden and have continuously pursued Momonosuke and the samurai, Kinemon reveals that Oden once traveled with Gold D. Roger reaching Laugh-Tale and learning the secret of the world. As everybody reacts to learning that Momonosuke's father Oden, who was executed, traveled to Laugh-Tale on Gold D. Roger's ship, Robin realizes that Oden must have known about the Void Century, which the archaeologists of Ohara spent their lives studying. Zoro believes that this is the reason that Kinemon's group of samurai were targeted by Doflamingo and Caesar, who have ties with Kaido, even though Oden kept all the information to himself for the safety of his people. Kinemon, as well as all the other retainers, say they plan on fighting back because of Oden's last words, which were, "Open up Wano Country." The reason the samurai came to Zoo is to ask their allies, the Minks, to help them fight, and the rest of the samurai, excluding Momonosuke, ask Law and Luffy for their help. The rest of the Straw Hats accept the offer without any hesitation, but Luffy declines the request. As the group try to knock some sense into their captain, Luffy calls out the crying Momonosuke and says he should be requesting their aid if he is the supposed leader of Wano Country. Momonosuke steps up and pleads for Luffy's help to take down Kaido, as he is too small right now but still wants to protect all of his retainers. Luffy then accepts Momonosuke's request, and the rest of the leaders unite to form the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance, whose goal is to defeat the Emperor Kaido. Luffy expresses his excitement for the upcoming battle with Kaido, and the members of the newly formed Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance once again celebrate their formation. However, Luffy then brings forth a condition to their alliance, as he requests that he go rescue Sanji from Big Mom before the final war. Nekomamushi remembers Sanji, but Inuarashi does not due to having been in a coma at the time, and Nekomamushi explains to him who Sanji was and how he left Zoo. Luffy is warned about the danger of the mission, but he is confident since he does not plan to fight Big Mom and will be accompanied by Picoms, whom he calls Pikomamushi, which causes Nekomamushi to laugh and Inuarashi to be confused. Meanwhile, the Minks in Kurao City rejoice about the newfound peace between Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, looking forward to their schedules being less strict and planning to prepare a banquet. Meanwhile, Jack's fleet sails the seas and Jack sits next to Sheepshed, who is heavily injured and hanging upside down. Having punished him for returning to him without finding Raizo, Jack continues berating Sheepshed, and Jinrumi silently hopes Sheepshed does not say anything about why they left, as Jack would certainly not be happy to hear that not only were the Minks still alive, but that his members were chased away by another pirate crew. The fleet then draws closer to Zoo as the Beast's pirates prepare to finish off the Minks and complete their mission, but Jack states that they will not confront the Minks again. Instead, they will attack Zunesha, the giant elephant carrying Zoo itself, and his crew members are awed at the notion of attacking such a giant being. Meanwhile, the ninja pirate Mink Samurai Alliance heads back outside, and Inuarashi mentions how he and Nekomamushi once sailed with the Roger pirates. Luffy is awed to hear this, and Inuarashi clarifies, saying they accompanied Oden as his attendants and previously sailed with the Whitebeard pirates as well. The Straw Hats are amazed to hear about the rulers' histories, and Usopp hurriedly writes their accounts in his notebook. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi gleefully remember the times of adventure they had, to the point of dancing together, which Usopp notes is quite the contrast to when they were trying to kill each other a very short time ago. However, Nekomamushi reveals that he and Inuarashi did not go to Laugh Tale, and Kinemon states that he, Kanjuro, and Raizo did not accompany Oden due to it being a crime to go beyond Wano country's borders. Momonosuke states that he was too young to remember much about his father's journey, but the Straw Hats immediately call him out due to Roger's voyage being over 2 decades ago. Frankie then asks Inuarashi and Nekomamushi if they remember Tom, and the two rulers do and are happy to hear of him. As Brook is about to ask the rulers if they remember Crocus, Nami interjects and asks about the log pose, recalling how Crocus told them it would lead to their final destination on the Grand Line and wondering how it reconciles with their new discovery about how the road poneglyphs are needed to reach Laugh Tale. However, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi reply that Crocus' statement is indeed accurate, as the Straw Hats will need to bring all the information they have gathered on Laugh Tale and the true history to the final island, which will cause the final island to have an integral role in allowing them to go beyond it and find Laugh Tale. Nekomamushi fondly recalls Crocus and how he was going to look for a pirate crew from long ago. Brook then reveals that he is from that crew and that the rest of his crewmates died, which shocks Nekomamushi. The Alliance then reaches the bottom of the whale tree, and as Luffy plans to go and get Sanji back, Nekomamushi states that he has allies to recruit as well for the battle against Kaido Marco and the remaining Whitebeard pirates. The Alliance discusses about the payback war between the Whitebeard pirates, led by 1st Division Commander Marco and the Blackbeard pirates, leading Blackbeard to become one of the 4 emperors. The Alliance also decided to split up in order to achieve different objectives. One group would go to Whole Cake Island to retrieve Sanji. Another group would go to Wano in preparation to battle Kaido. A third group would stay on Zoo in order to protect it. The Mink Tribe then decide to have a banquet to celebrate the truce between Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. Jack and his crew then begin their attack on Zoo. Zoo continues to shake from the cannon fire of the Beast's pirates' fleet hitting Zunesha's leg, and the people on Zoo struggle to stand as this happens. Luffy and Momonosuke writhe in pain due to having an overpowering noise inside their heads. The buildings in the Guardians' residential district begin collapsing, and one falls on Tristan, but Frankie catches it and saves her. Wanda tells everyone to congregate together and get away from the buildings, but several trees are uprooted and fall on them. However, Zoro cuts apart the falling trees, and Raizo throws shuriken on the ground to prevent the wood slices from bouncing onto the Minks. Momonosuke collapses due to the pain inside his head, and as Kinemon and Kanjuro tend to him, he receives a vision where he sees Jack and his fleet attacking Zunesha. Momonosuke then reveals the cause of Zoo quaking, and the Musketeers and Guardians race to their ships to take on Jack in a naval battle, determined to win this time. Zunesha then talks directly to Momonosuke, warning him that if Jack's forces brought it down, everyone on Zoo would be in grave danger. It reveals that it was condemned to walk across the ocean for eternity, and could only act otherwise if it was ordered to. The Beast's pirates' cannon fire then manages to severely weaken Zunesha's front left leg, causing it to tilt even more and force the people on Zoo to hang on for dear life. The Beast's pirates celebrate their success, and Jack anticipates finishing Zunesha off. Zunesha begs Momonosuke to give it the order to attack Jack and protect everyone on Zoo, and after struggling to regain his composure, Momonosuke gives Zunesha the order, shouting it across the entire island on its back. Zunesha's voice composure then changes and it steps forward with its front left foot, perturbing the Beast's pirates as it understands the order. Zunesha then swings its trunk across the ocean, causing a massive wave that sends Jack's fleet flying into the air. Finally, it swings its trunk right into the fleet, completely annihilating it and breaking Jack's mask as it blows him and his crewmates into the ocean, along with the large wreckage of their ships. Zunesha then resumes its walk. Buriate witnesses the scene while hanging off a chain going down Zunesha's left flank, and hurriedly races off in shock to report what happened. Zoo stops shaking, and everyone on it wonders what has happened, with Momonosuke not hearing anything anymore. Buriate then comes to them and reveals that Jack's fleet has been destroyed by Zunesha, causing everyone to be joyful. Inuarashi is surprised that Zunesha has a mind of its own, and Usopp asks if Jack is dead since he is a devil fruit user that fell into water, which Nekomamushi affirms, causing Usopp to be greatly relieved. Luffy then comes in with a giant pack on his back, wondering why everyone is still looking serious and wanting food for his journey to rescue Sanji. However, Nekomamushi states his desire to find out how Jack managed to get to Zoo twice, as it means the island is likely not safe from the beast's pirates. Luffy wishes Nekomamushi good luck and hopes that Zunesha will become their ally, which amuses him. Meanwhile, on a snowy island, Kaido receives a call from Scratchminapoo, who reveals that they have lost all communication with Jack and his fleet. A flying squirrel mink named Musatobi glides down to Zunesha's front left leg and examines it. When he sees the extent of the leg's damage, he becomes shocked and quickly flies back up to warn the others. On Zoo, Nekomamushi agrees to give Luffy food for his journey, and Musatobi races to the crowd to warn them about Zunesha's injuries. Zunesha's injured leg then gives out slightly, causing Zoo to shake again. The minks prepare to take imminent action, and Luffy offers his crew's help in treating Zunesha. Inuarashi states that the crew is not obligated to help them, but Luffy insists, saying that they are in an alliance. Chopper prepares to get medicinal herbs, and Usopp asks if the minks have bandages for the elephant, which they deny, so he and Robin decide to work on that. Frankie then asks about the ships the minks had mentioned during Jack's attack, wondering how they can embark from the island. He, Usopp, and Shishilian go to the building that houses the ships, only to find that all of them were destroyed during Jack's attack. However, the pulley systems that are used to bring the ships down to the ocean are still intact, and Frankie decides to rebuild the ships. Shishilian then tells all the minks outside to assist the Straw Hats in this endeavor, and Frankie calls on Zoro, Brook, and Kin Iman to help them cut down trees for wood. Meanwhile, Wanda thanks the Straw Hats for helping the minks, and Nami asks if she could get a map in order to chart a route to Big Mom's territory. Wanda does not have one, but Pedro does, and he prepares to take Nami to it. In another area, Chopper and several minks pick medicinal herbs, and Chopper explains to Miyagi and Tristan that this is a rare herb which can heal Zunesha's injuries. As Luffy and Carrot ride a crocodile boar steed across the island, they come across several female minks holding large white sheets, which Robin sews together with her devil fruit powers in order to create a giant bandage. Back in the forest, Brook uses his swordsmanship to cut down several trees, and so does Kinemon, although his foxfire style causes the trees to catch on fire, and Raizo puts out the fire quickly with a watering can. Zoro then cuts up several trees into fine lumber, but ends up separating himself from everyone else, which Law berates him for. And then Luffy and Carrot come by and make fun of Zoro, causing him to be embarrassed even further and declare that he will carry all the lumber himself, but Law uses Shambles to transport Zoro against his will directly to the construction site on the edge of Zoo, which Carrot reacts in shock. Meanwhile, Nami receives a map inside a room and plots out the direction to go in to get to Whole Cake Island, which will take more than a week. Wanda and Pedro then decide individually and silently to accompany the Straw Hats in the quest to Whole Cake Island in order to provide assistance, and Luffy and Carrot drop in as Nami notices a small island on their route near the edge of their map. She then looks outside and sees to her shock that there is a giant cloud formation in the sea nearby. At the edge of Zoo, Frankie receives the freshly cut lumber and quickly builds pristine boats which the minks gawk at. Chopper and his helpers then arrive with the medicine, and other minks come with bandages, saying that Robin stayed behind to make more so they could change them later. Usopp and Kanjuro then come up on a poorly drawn parrot, having laid the tracks to bring down the ships on. Back in the map room, Nami states that the cloud formation she sees is a silent supercell, a powerful storm cloud which is likely to wreak havoc on the treatment effort. She tells a shocked Luffy to warn the others to stop the treatment and evacuate. Meanwhile, the boats are lowered with the pulley systems, allowing the Straw Hats and minks to get close to Zunesha's wounds. Chopper spreads the medicinal herb onto the wound, stating that it must be painful, but Zunesha is quietly taking it. Tristan assists Chopper and silently wishes that she could learn medical practice from him. After Chopper finishes applying the medicine, he orders the bandage to be applied. However, Zunesha enters the silent supercell, and as Luffy and Carrot race to the edge of Zoo, the Straw Hats and minks begin feeling strong winds. The wind strength increases as a downpour begins, and Carrot and Luffy are blown toward their destination. The wind causes the hanging ships to swing toward Zunesha's leg, but Usopp cushions the impact with a pop green. A rope holding one of the boats snaps, causing the people on it to fall, but Luffy stretches out his arm, allowing them to grab onto it and slide onto another boat. The brace holding all the boats then snaps, but Luffy manages to grab it, allowing him to hold the boats in place until the storm passes. Robin then uses her devil fruit powers to securely hold the pulley system in place, and the cheerful minks return to work. Later, Carrot takes Luffy to a pantry, where he places a lot of food into a big backpack. Carrot gushes over the talents of Luffy's crew and tries to ask if she can go on the mission to Whole Cake Island, but Luffy does not hear her as he suddenly realizes that he forgot about Picoms, who he needs on his journey. Luffy then asks Carrot to take the backpack to the Thousand Sunny before running out, and Carrot eyes some bananas on the floor. At the edge of Zoo, the Straw Hats and Minks begin finishing up Zunesha's treatment, and the Minks thank the Straw Hats for all their help, with Shishilian giving an especially over-the-top presentment of gratitude. Meanwhile, Carrot goes to the top of the Mokomo Dukedom gates and gazes out at the ocean in awe before giving some bananas to Burie. Elsewhere, Luffy runs through the forest to look for Picoms. The Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance decides to break into 4 smaller groups, each with their own personal mission, before later converging at Wano Country. Usopp gives Nami a new upgraded climb attack, and Pedro insists he should be the only one of the Mink Tribe to accompany Luffy's group, as only he can keep Picoms under control. Afterward, Luffy's group descends to the Thousand Sunny, with their mission to get Sanji back as they set out for Tado Land. Meanwhile at Arabasta, Princess Vivi prepares to head out to sea to attend the Reverie. The citizens of Arabasta wave goodbye to Princess Vivi as she sails away from Arabasta with Cobra, Karoo, and their attendants. They are escorted by a marine ship captained by Rear Admiral Haina, and she orders Django, Fullbody, and the rest of her men to stay vigilant in their escort. Vivi climbs up to the crow's nest and waves goodbye to her subjects as she looks out at the open sea in front of her. Toto remarks that Vivi looks extremely comfortable out in the sea, and Koza replies that she is getting in touch with her pirating past again. As she stands in the crow's nest, Vivi remembers her experiences with the Straw Hat Pirates. 2 years ago on Arabasta, she and Luffy had argued on whether it was better to save the country by beating up Crocodile or stopping the oncoming civil war, causing them to fight. However, Luffy's remark that he and his crew would help Vivi save her country deeply affected her. Back in the present, Igaram tells Vivi to come down to the deck, worrying about the various ways she could be harmed up there. However, Vivi only scares him more by somersaulting off the crow's nest, landing gently on her feet. She then talks to Cobra, who is coughing, and she expresses concern about his ability to make the voyage to Reverie. Cobra states his intention to go, as he wanted to ask the world government about the poneglyph on Arabasta, and why their ancestors' actions were inscribed on it. However, he does state that he could die soon and wonders if Vivi will choose a husband soon to help her rule the kingdom. However, Vivi politely declines her father's statement with a wink. Starry, now king of the Goa Kingdom, stays in a fancy hotel room with his wife, Suri Nantokinet, on their way to Reverie. Nantokinet admires their room, but Starry finds little to compliment on, only noting that he could see Gold D. Roger's execution scaffold from the window and that he had seen worse places. His attendants ask if he needs anything, and Starry rudely drives them away, causing them to run out of the room. It is then revealed that the time has now come for the Reverie, and rulers of countries all over the world are making the voyage to marry Jiuais in order to meet with each other. In Kano country, its ruler laments the absence of the Qinjiao family, but prepares to make the journey anyways. He states that the war ended after the other side lost access to the weapons supplied by Doflamingo. Meanwhile, on Fishman Island, Shirahoshi curls up into a ball in apprehension at going up to marry Jiuais, saying that Luffy promised he would be the one to take her farther into the outside world. Her brothers and attendants try convincing her otherwise, saying that their journey is simple and straight up and that Luffy will take her farther than that also. They now have enough signatures on Otoheim's petition for human and fishman coexistence to present at Reverie. However, Shirahoshi still resists, and her brothers wonder if they should leave her behind, but Neptune states that it would not make them look trusting should they withhold her. Shirahoshi then remembers her time with Luffy and how she had resolved to stop crying as much the next time she saw him. On the Thousand Sunny, Luffy wonders why everyone else on the ship is not doing their jobs promptly as the other members of the Sanji retrieval team are still recovering from their jump off of Zoo. Nami is sick to her stomach and can barely keep them on their intended path, and Carrot suddenly jumps in, offering to help. Luffy initially admires her for her energy, not realizing who she is at first. He and the rest of the crew then gasp in shock to see her, and Carrot excitedly looks out at the vast expanses of the ocean as everyone else wonders why she is here. After Carrot reveals herself to have snuck on board the Thousand Sunny, the Sanji retrieval team decides to take her along. At the Sakura Kingdom, Korea decides to accompany Dalton to the Reverie. At the Black Drum Kingdom, Wapol narrates about his rise to power and wonders how to take Dalton down at the Reverie. At Dressrosa, Viola invites Rebecca to the Reverie. Pedro discovers the news regarding the attack on the Revolutionary Army's headquarters caused by the Blackbeard pirates, and when looking at the newspaper, Luffy sees his father Dragon's face for the first time. Despite Luffy's concern for Sabo, Pedro states it is more likely they are still alive and safe somewhere. However, this distraction and the fact Luffy left the stove on causes a gas explosion in the kitchen, causing the meal Luffy planned to turn out awful, and that he also wasted a week's worth of food, leaving the team with no food. Meanwhile, Kaido is enraged at Doflamingo's capture and swears revenge against the worst generation. It is also revealed he has captured one of them, Eustace Kid.